Hello, this is Adam with DSL Dropship Lifestyle, and today I have a special guest. I have Brian on this session. How's it going, Brian?
Going great.
So great. So Brian was part of the 10K challenge. It ended recently, just over a week ago, and he was number 3. He had 63,000, I think 300, just over 63K in sales during that window that we had the 10K challenge open. Since then, he's made more sales, so stay tuned for that if you want to hear more about that. But we're going to be going over some how do you find DSL, some basic strategy that he used to achieve those numbers and everything. So again, welcome, Brian.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so great. Thanks for joining.
But I gotta meet this Zach guy that did 250,000 or whatever the heck that was.
Well, yeah, great. Well, you're going to be seeing him hopefully next week because I'm going to be talking to him next week. So if you have any questions for him, then we can kind of pick his brain. So
I'll save it for then.
Yeah, and then we already spoke with Greg, who was number 2. I think just over a month ago. But maybe we can network and so I guess my first question is just if you don't mind, tell everybody listening, what were you doing before finding Dropship Lifestyle, and then kind of all the way to finding Dropship Lifestyle, and kind of what made you want to take action? If you could kind of walk us through all that real quick. Yeah.
Okay. So not a tough question, but tough to decide where to start. So I've been in the corporate world like a lot of people that are probably in the DSL program for many years. I'm probably older than most. I'm 36, so I've been working for a long time. My wife was very successful as well. She was actually a CFO for several years of a large internet marketing firm of all places. And but I would say probably like a lot of people, we just were generally unhappy with the lifestyle. If you go back about two to 3 years ago, I was living in LA, working in Culver City, driving about 2.5, 3 hours a day between home and work for my commute. I had a newborn or 1-year-old son at the time, and it was making me nuts to be away from him all the time. And I just never was fully comfortable just having or not having the freedom to sort of do the things I want to do, or even run a company the way I want to run them. And my wife was the same way. She had a great job with a great company, but she just generally wasn't happy. And we always knew that we wanted our own business, that eventually we were going to set out on our own. We just needed the right trigger to get it to happen. So fast forward then to, I want to say, what year is it now? So it would be 2015, and we had an opportunity to leave both of our jobs for a startup. Okay, and it was an odd startup, but it was a great one, and we were making very good money. And we were there for just under a year, but unfortunately, funding basically dried up. The partnership sort of collapsed, and things didn't work out. And so, as of February 2016. The writing was on the wall that was over, and neither one of us were really comfortable going back and looking for jobs. It just wasn't going to happen. And add to that, my wife had always really had the desire to spend at least more time with the kids, if not stay home with the kids. At this point, we now had our second child, and he was about 5 months old. So again, this is February 2016, and we said, okay, that's it. This is the time. This is the reason that we need in order to finally set out and do things on our own. And we had dozens of different ideas for businesses over the years, but none of them got far enough along for us to really sink our teeth into. So we were at this point where we know we want to do our own business, but everything's a little too enigmatic to start. We just didn't have the right idea yet. And I think I came across DSL. To be honest, I think I was a classic lead generation candidate. I think I just got hit on Facebook enough times that I finally clicked on it, and I started watching it. And I've always believed in the importance of investing in yourself. If you're not investing in your learning and in your own development, you're gonna lose money in the long run, or better said, maybe it's gonna pay off over the long haul. So I just finally, I had been at that point seeing it for maybe 2 or 3 months, I think. And I finally clicked on it, looked through it, and I thought, this makes sense. And this is a logical place to start. So if we're going to start, our goal was essentially to create like a portfolio of e-commerce businesses. And the most logical place to start seemed like, let's use this program, which has a real blueprint, a full blueprint from cradle to grave in terms of, how to get your business started, how to get sales, and even eventually how to sell it now. So let's give this a try. This seems like the lowest barrier to entry into the e-commerce world. So we took the plunge. So that was
very nice.
That was February of 2016. I would say I was one of the people that probably took longer than most. We didn't really launch the store. I finally let it go live in August. I really started turning on ads and doing that in earnest in September. I was really slow. And part of that was we had a lot of distractions as well. We moved away from California. We now live in Colorado so that we could, cut our cost of living almost in half. So I was a little slower than most getting started, but once we really got going in earnest, it's taken off. And obviously the results are reflected in the 10K challenge to some extent.
Great. Yeah. So, it takes some time. And then, if you have kids, and a lot of irons in the fire, then I can hear you. It takes some time to kind of get things going and build your store up, build your confidence and everything. And that's right around the time we started the 10K challenge. So it sounds like it was perfect timing to start running those ads. So great. So what course did you end up investing in for dropship lifestyle, and then what made you want to invest in that particular package?
I don't particularly remember, but I think it was just that based on what I read and what I saw, and I think I had taken a couple of Anton's mini courses. I felt confident. And I don't remember exactly what it was that gave me that feeling, but I felt confident that it was a full blueprint, that this wasn't an esoteric theoretical way to win in business. Because if you're like me, and I'm sure everybody that sees this video gets a lot of ads promoted on their news feed, and a lot of it is people guaranteeing certain results, but it's more maybe more mindset, high level. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just less nuts and bolts than dropship lifestyle was. So I felt like I was going to get the nuts and bolts, and that's what I really needed. And I would say, I really mean that. I have a lot of business experience. I have a lot of marketing experience. What I haven't had to do, because I'm usually working with teams and I'm usually managing teams, I haven't had to actually do the implementation of a lot of these things. That's been, one of my biggest learning curves. I understand the principles of advertising, but put me in front of analytics and my eyes roll back in my head, right? So that was, I think, what drew me to DSL. I would say, the other course that I invested in prior, and I really haven't really fully used it, was Ramit Sethi's Zero to Launch. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Not particularly.
Okay, it's a totally different course. It's meant more for people that are either doing blogging or info products or consulting, which is what initially I thought we were going to do. And that was something that I've been playing with for months prior. And I actually think that helped. That it's very much talks about mindset as opposed to the nuts and bolts that dropship lifestyle provides. So it was an interesting complement, but it just didn't have that that set of instructions, so to speak, that user manual that Anton's course provided. That was key for me.
Great. Yeah, no, for sure. I hear you. So just so everybody that's tuning in, we have about 35, we're hovering about 35 viewers right now. If you have any questions, I'm sure you're watching from YouTube live right now. We'll get to as many of them as possible. So make sure you ask any questions in the chat box, and we'll get to them. So I know how I define drop shipping, but someone's asking. So let's see. I'm not sure if they're the pronunciation of their name, but RAJTHA is asking. So what is drop shipping? How would you define drop shipping, Brian?
Well, I mean, I like the way that Anton describes it as it's just sort of a a means of fulfillment in today's day and age where I guess people are spending less time in stores and more time online. It becomes less and less necessary for dealers or distributors to stock. The other interesting thing is that sort of, it seems like in today's climate, more manufacturers sell direct, either because they're just doing it simply through Amazon, or a lot of these stores have their own e-commerce stores, which is a funny dynamic, because in some sense you compete with them, but usually they're pretty good about that. But essentially, I guess drop shipping is, it means that we are sort of the marketing arm, the sales arm for a manufacturer. So we come to an agreement with the supplier. We market and advertise and sell their products. And when somebody buys it, rather than spend money putting that in a warehouse and shipping it twice, it just ships once directly to the customer, which, I think a lot of people have their stigmas about drop shipping, but in the big picture, it feels to me like you're saving, like there is a resource gain. There is a general savings across the commerce chain because you're minimizing steps. And I think sometimes suppliers are funny about it because they see it as maybe you're not getting any skin in the game. But in actuality, that's not the case. And you know as well as I do that we're spending thousands of dollars advertising their products long before the sale goes out, or I guess I would say pre-sale. So that's not entirely true. And we're also spending money, putting together, or spending money and spending time, which is even more valuable than money, putting together websites, putting together promotional campaigns, all kinds of things. I hope that wasn't too much, but I hope that kind of answers the question.
No, I think it was a great answer. You expanded upon it. So no, it's good. So I think I know what your big why is, but obviously you found success in fairly a short amount of time. So you were starting to build your store in August. You started running ads in September, around the time we started the 10K challenge. What motivated you to just continue, push through any challenges, push through any barriers to find that success that you're having right now?
Yeah. So I would say I'll give you a two-part answer. Today, it's simple. It's fear. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I have 2 kids, a wife. I have a rent payment. I have a car payment. We have health insurance. We spend a lot of money on food, feeding these growing kids. So today, my motivation is simply fear of not being able to support that lifestyle, support my family, right? But I think the real answer, the reason why we got started on this in the first place, and the reason why we're willing, I mean, no joke, we're making today, probably 5 to 10. Let me put it this way: a year and a half ago, we were making 5 to 10 times what we make now. And the reason we're willing to take that hit, the reason we're willing to make that sacrifice, is because we just wanted freedom. I don't think we're like a lot of people in the program that just want to travel constantly. I follow Trevor, for example, and Trevor is he's all over Asia, and same thing with Johnny. These guys are traveling and really taking advantage of the lifestyle. And if I was in my mid or early 20s and I didn't have a family, I'd be doing that too. But my version of that is rather than being able to travel at any given time, it's having the freedom to, for example, today you and I are going to get off the phone. I'm going to go with my wife to pick up my son from preschool, and we're going to go to the downtown area where we live, and we're going to go have a breakfast and hang out for a little while in the middle of a Friday, right? Not something that most people can do. And another example is last weekend, we spent 5 days or 4 days in Jackson Hole for my birthday. And over the course, so we left Thursday morning, got back Monday night. And over the course of those 5 days, I think I worked a total of 3 hours. And I'm pretty sure that we made about $10,000, $12,000 in sales over that time period at the same time, So I think that's what it's about. It's the freedom to do that. It's the freedom for my wife to be home with the kids, and it's the ability to be here when my son wakes up from his nap and walks into my room to say hello and give me a big hug. So That's what it's all about for me. It's about being with my family and just having the freedom to do the things that we want to do and to be happy with what we do, which wasn't always the case.
No, that's great. A lot of people have to find their center, find their why, their big why, to find success. So it sounds certainly like you have. And so yeah, I guess you beat that 1 week. You beat that 4-hour work week by 1 hour. It sounds like.
Exactly.
So wow, that's awesome.
I wouldn't recommend doing that over the long term, right? But
no. I mean, most people can't do that. But I mean, like, every once in a while you can, and it sounds like it afforded you to be able to do that. So. Great for you. So, and then Jason, while we were talking, while you were giving your answer, he says fear of a 9 to 5 is what he comments. So so
I do. Honestly, I mean, look, owning your own business, there's a certain level of manicism. If you're not riding the highs and lows a little bit, you're not following close enough. I mean, anybody who has a small business like this is going to feel that. There's days, or sometimes you go a day or two where you don't get a sale, and you think to yourself, "Oh God, what's going on? Is my store collapsing?" Right? And then you have a huge day the next day. But the fear on those bad days is certainly like, God, I just don't want to go back to a regular job. I just can't imagine putting myself back in that situation. I know I'd be miserable. So I was miserable then, and now I have a taste of the good life. So why would I go back? It'd be even worse. So absolutely fear of the 9 to 5.
Yeah. So that's good. That's good, Jason. So let's see. So we have some questions coming in. Let's see what we got. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So this is going to kind of be a 2-part question, or kind of all related. So I'll kind of ask them one shot, and I think it'll make sense, hopefully. So Christina is asking how you choose niche for your online store. And then Cynthia, what challenge you face when you started to narrow down your niche? Any tips? So both niche related. Christina's asking how you chose your niche, and then Cynthia's asking which challenges you faced while you started to narrow down your niche. So, and if there's any tips. Yeah,
well, I think this is probably one of the hardest parts of the course. And I think I remember Ernest saying, I remember seeing his video where he's like, man, I just followed the process. And to some extent, I think that's the truth. The idea is you're creating a really big bucket, and you're trying to find ways to whittle it down. One of the challenges I think I personally faced when trying to decide a niche is the research actually takes a lot more time than you would expect. And keeping track of all the researching that you're doing of different niches and different manufacturers, I remember that becoming cumbersome. But ultimately, making that decision is really hard. So how did I choose? I think I got a little lucky in the first one that I chose, in that I found something that sort of merged passion with opportunity. I would say that the niche that I'm in is something that I'm personally passionate about, which probably is the reason I was able to also deal with a lot of the specific challenges of my niche in the long run. But I would say first thing I would do to anybody that's trying to decide a niche is I would give yourself a deadline, because if you just leave it totally open-ended, it's going to go forever, right? Set a hard date, set a hard time, whatever you have to do, and just at that point you make a decision. And I think what people have to sort of accept is that that's not a death sentence if it's a bad niche, right? But you have to start somewhere, and you can sit there and go through the analysis paralysis situation if you're not careful, right? And I would say also, I was fortunate in that I found something that I'm passionate about, but I would actually recommend people detach themselves from their interests. From the few people that I've talked to, I think some people get stuck, or they ultimately don't move forward because they don't find a niche that they're interested in. Who cares? Just start. What you're going to find in the long run is that the passion is going to come from the journey. The passion is learning how to market, learning how to grow your store, and to some extent, it might even be the best case scenario, because your first store is probably not going to be your best, right? So second time around, you can go back, and when you figure out what thing you're passionate about that you really want to sell, you'll be better equipped to do it. I think that's the best advice I would give. Set a deadline. Try not to get too caught up in interest. Find something that seems lucrative.
Okay. Yeah. No, all great points. So hopefully that answers your question. That's good.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing. I would say,
go ahead.
Don't be afraid to make phone calls and reach out to suppliers before you've chosen a niche. And I would say, do your best to try and understand what kind of margins you're going to have. I think that's one of the challenges, because you might find a niche that has really high traffic. You might find a niche that has the right number of suppliers, whatever the case may be. But what you don't really know until you start talking to suppliers and getting into some of the nitty-gritty about pricing and things are just what kind of margins you're going to have to deal with. And I can certainly say that in my first niche, I kind of learned that the hard way, that it's a relatively low margin niche, and I wouldn't have known that until I started calling manufacturers.
Good takeaway. Yeah, for sure. So let's see what else we have coming in. Let's see. So from Alex, I'll give my point of view, and then you can, if you want to jump in there. But Alex is asking, do you recommend finding other US-based dropshippers as opposed to arbitrage through sites like AliExpress? So a lot of people, I guess, have asked recently, sourcing products from like AliExpress and some other those companies out there that are dropship friendly, but like offer kind of the middleman that offer like, a lot of the products and everything like that. Of course, they'll tack their fee on there. So, you can do what Anton provides in the course, and especially the dropship lifestyle blueprint, modules 1, which is niche selection, and modules 2, which is market research. You can do all the research yourself, and you can cut the margins. Brian has already kind of a low margin niche. If he had to go through someone else, for instance, and then tack on their fee, he would have less revenue or less profit actually. So personally, I don't recommend anything like AliExpress. I recommend you work directly with the suppliers. But if you want to give your take on that, or if you have anything to add, Brian.
Yeah. Well, really quick before I answer, is there a way that I can see the questions too? I opened the chat box and that doesn't seem to do it, but.
I can send you, let me see, I'll send you the link.
It's not crucial, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no. I'll send you the link through the
it's on the YouTube channel, that's where it is.
Yeah, but it might be kind of, but that's the exact link, and you have to mute it, I think, from there, and then you can kind of see, hopefully, the conversation.
Sorry, so that's weird, now I'm looking at myself.
Yeah. I'm hiding myself. Yeah, but yeah.
So back to the question. So I don't know a ton about AliExpress. I've definitely I've avoided it, and it just to your point. I feel like your resources are being lost between you and the supplier. If somebody else is touching it, if it's being shipped between in between supplier and dealer, you're losing money. I would say on the other hand, just as a general general insight on working with master distributors or some of these large companies, because there are plenty of manufacturers who use these distributors or fulfillment companies or whatever the case may be to get all of their products to the dealer. I would say there's nothing wrong with evaluating it on a case-by-case basis. So we have one manufacturer in particular that we do work with through one of those sort of fulfillment distributor companies. It's not AliExpress. It's a little bit different, but we actually, for a long time, we were set up as a dealer. I didn't really advertise any of it, but it's such a big brand in our niche. I decided to take the plunge and do it. And it's not as profitable as others, but the question is there a positive ROI? And to some extent, it's sort of, it's kind of an incarnation of the general advertising principles when you're in e-commerce, right? So it's like, is it worth advertising? Well, let's say, for example, that we advertise $1,000 a month and we profit $2,000 a month off of that. And would it be worth it if I could then advertise $2,000 a month and make $2,200? So in other words, what I'm saying is, in that case, my profit margin would go down substantially by advertising that extra $1,000, but I'm still making $200 more than I would be if I didn't. Net profit, if that makes sense. So as long as there is an ROI, a positive ROI to come from it, there's nothing wrong with doing it. It's just not the most ideal situation. I'm not sure if that made sense. It's a hard thing to describe verbally as opposed to doing it visually, but
yeah, or going through it yourself. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think it made sense to me. Hopefully, it made sense to other people. But the short answer is we wouldn't recommend it. And we kind of hopefully you got some points as to why. But let's see. Alex is asking, are you running another 10K challenge soon? Want to get involved? So Alex, it's more than likely going to be towards the end of the year again, probably September, October, later this year. We don't have a hard date, but we're planning on it. So I guess stay tuned for it, but it'll more than likely be on a new store like we're doing now. So you have time to get experience in the meantime and everything. So John V is asking, just tuned in, what type of product does Brian sell? So I'll tell you this now, and Brian, you can add whatever you want to it. But as Brian's selling in a highly competitive niche, we usually don't give away niches because it creates unnecessary competition for the store owner to protect their privacy as well. Just because, if there's going to, a lot of people might start, oh, well, hey, he's successful in this niche. Let me go ahead and start a store. But then, you're creating competition for him. It's also creating, it's more per click to get to a customer. So, but Brian, whatever you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll specifically share the niche that I'm in. What I would say is you're right. I mean, I'm in a niche that I love, but a niche that turned out to be much more competitive and much lower profit than I had initially hoped. We've managed to do okay, and largely that's because I had the ability to spend probably more than most would in our niche and in our advertising. But I would say, yeah, I mean, just not something that I would share specifically. And I know, even though most people that are probably on this are probably good, upstanding people, I have had some weird people that I've found on my site. I've gotten even some weird requests through my online chat function, and it always makes me a little bit uncomfortable. There's so many niches out there. We don't need to share one. We don't want to compete with each other.
Okay, good. I hear you. So let's see. So Christina's asking again, I have one more question. Do I need some legal documentation before I start drop shipping? Thanks for your answer. Christina, what I would recommend you do is go to blog.dropshiplifestyle.com/blog, and go there and do a search for legal or legal considerations in e-commerce. You should be able to find 2 articles that go through that information for you. Of course, we're not lawyers or anything like that. We give basic information, but the 2 posts, there was one created by a CPA and one created by a actual lawyer that's going through Dropship Lifestyle. So you can read more about those type of things there. So just FYI. Let's see what else we have. Someone's asking how it can be a part of your team, guys. Well, I don't know if it's our team or Dropship Lifestyle. We have a thriving community.
I'm always looking for free interns.
Yeah, you heard it from Brian first. Let's see. Let's see. Best site for setting up online store. John's asking another question from John. Best site for starting up online store. So I'm guessing best platform. I mean, of course, there's WordPress, there's Magneto, there's
that's an easy
BigCommerce,
question,
there's Volusion, but
Yeah, it's.
I think
It's
Brian
Shopify.
is,
It's like Shopify is like iTunes. It's become, not only is it the most user friendly system to use, but it also has the best set of supporting apps, and everybody knows that Shopify is the primary e-commerce platform. So every app that you ever try to work with, even ones that aren't in the Shopify store, are easily compatible with it. They're easy to install. So I mean, to be honest, I think anybody would be crazy to go to any other site other than Shopify, personally.
I agree. Yeah, and we definitely we just got a deal landing page from them yesterday. It was like pulling teeth. I don't know if you saw the post, Brian, but a lot of other people in the community did. They were going through a restructure, trying to take all the discounts that were fragmented and different discounts to different vendors and everything, and that became more streamlined. So from my understanding, we have the best deal on Shopify that I'm aware of. So we're going to link it somewhere, probably under the video, under the post. So if you want to get more information on that and you're interested in trying Shopify, then you can take advantage of it there. Let's see what else we have. Well, let me ask you a question. So, and then we can kind of, hopefully, if we have more time left, we can kind of get to some other questions. What kind of challenges did you face early on with your store? And I know we talked about like your motivation, but what were some specific challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. Okay. I think some of it was just initially it was a time challenge. I know personally, I had a lot of distractions, and this is coming from a person who wasn't even, working a full-time job at the time. So I really commend the people that managed to pull this off just in the, the after hours and on the weekends. So let's see. I mean, time was an early one. I think the other thing that I guess shocked me was just how long it took to upload products. Once you get your manufacturers and your suppliers all lined up and you start inputting those, especially if you have products with a lot of variants and options and things like that, that can be really time consuming. And so populating just our catalog took me way longer than I expected. I would say, another store was another challenge was just the mental hurdle of feeling like, okay, this is good enough to go live. I would say there was probably a long period of time, looking back on it, where it was ready to go. I could have taken the password off, and I really hesitated, and I came up with probably silly reasons for doing so. And the same thing goes for advertising. My store went live, and I waited a long time to really advertise in earnest and dive in. What I know now is that's ridiculous. I mean, if you have a functioning store and you've got products on it, and as long as you have the basic things you need to convert a sale, you should be driving traffic to it. I mean, some is better than none. It doesn't have to be 100% done in order to do that. And then I would say the final challenges for me are, I can't remember if I said this earlier or not, but I'm pretty comfortable with the process of lead generation and moving people down the sales funnel and just marketing in general. What I'm not personally familiar with is the nuts and bolts, the actual implementation of that stuff. So getting into analytics and AdWords and Google Merchant, and then of course, after that, getting into Business Manager and Ads Manager and Facebook. I mean, first of all, I think that those are probably the two worst designed user interfaces in the history of the planet. I don't know. It's the amount of complication that comes with, managing AdWords and managing analytics and all these things makes me crazy. It's like, definitely was not marketers or advertisers that were putting this interface together. So just having to manage that was a really big challenge. And one of the things that I did that probably would be different for most people is late last year, I actually hired Michael and search scientists to manage our paid search campaigns.
Very nice. Yeah.
And
I didn't know that. That was cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And it's been pretty successful. Well, it's been really successful, but it was a tough hurdle to overcome because it's not cheap, right? And everybody, I think, that does DSL understands the value of outsourcing. But most of the time when we're outsourcing, we're doing it for the sake of time. And I think people maybe forget that the other reason to outsource is for the sake of experience, right? If there are other people that can do a better job than what you do, and you need to save time anyways, it's something worth considering. And for somebody like me who, I had a limited amount of time before the store needed to make a profit, and I didn't have many months to cut my teeth and learn. So my wife and I made the decision, let's pay the money now. Let's let them do what they can. We'll lose that amount of profit that we're paying them. But what we'll do is, instead of us paying for virtual assistants to maybe handle customer service or whatever the case may be, this is where we'll put our initial outsourcing dollars. And so that's what we've done. So actually, to this day, I still handle customer service for my first store. And I think that'll probably change within the next few months. But right now I'm still doing it. And actually it hasn't been much of a time constraint for me.
Nice. Yeah. And handling customer service is good for sure. In my opinion, if you can, because you have your hand more on the pulse. You realize what people coming into your store want more, so you can kind of adjust course or change things up a little bit to give them what they want. So if you're listening to those conversations, then you can definitely implement it and convert to more sales in the long run.
100% agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see.
I know that if I outsourced customer service, I would be sacrificing a certain amount of sales, right? Because I just don't think it would be reasonable to expect the same level that I give, just because I've been so immersed in it. And I have the ability to make decisions quickly. That's not to say don't do it. I will. I know I'm going to have to, because we're into our second store, and we actually have 3 stores in total. One of them is not a drop shipping store. So we're going to reach a point where I'm spread too thin, but for now I haven't made the plunge.
Yeah, but in the beginning, it's good that you at least have your hand on the pulse. So it's good. Let's see what else we have coming in. While I'm looking at some of these questions, it's obviously, it sounds like hiring Michael in Search Sciences was a good move. What kind of results have you gotten with them? I know your numbers, but then in terms of like ROI and everything, if you can, if there's anything you'd like to mention there, or working with them in general.
Well, it's been great. I wouldn't give you ROI numbers or like my ROAS or cut, not because I don't want to give it, but because we've had some really weird issues with our conversion tracking. So our stated ROAS and our stated cost per acquisition has been sort of off, but it's been huge, right? And so especially, most of what they've done for me so far has been in search campaigns. It's been I should say shopping and search campaigns. And so look, we've done, as a store, we've done about $80,000 since we opened, and really since we first started advertising in the middle of September. 70,000 of that have been in the last 3 months alone, and I would say a large portion of that I would attribute to the work that they're doing, partially because they were able to do it so much faster than I was doing it on my own, and they're able to optimize it in ways that would have taken me a long time to learn and figure out. They just kind of know these things. So the return on investment has been really immense, and it gets easier and easier, obviously, because as you get more and more sales, you're spreading that cost out, and it becomes a smaller chunk of every sale that you sell. At least that's the way that I look at it. And the one thing I would say that has been great, this is a little bit of a tangent here. One of the things that has worked great for me has been getting into Bing with them. So we started search campaigns on Bing, I want to say in December, and just recently finally got the shopping campaign set up. And our return on investment in Bing as compared to Google has been great. So I definitely recommend anybody who's in their store already setting up AdWords. It's a pretty simple process to get into Bing. You can import all your campaigns. You just need to find another feed. There's a couple feeds that are right there in the Shopify app store that you can use, and they're like $10 a month. It's better. It's not free like the Google Shopping feed is, but $10 for more sales. I mean, it's an easy return on investment there. So get into Bing.
Good. Okay. No, that's a great tip. So, you don't hear a lot of people throw Bing around. So I know it's a smaller search engine, but
it's less traffic, but it's less competitive. I mean, the return on investment on my money on the advertising dollars we're spending in Bing is much higher than in AdWords.
Makes sense for sure. So yeah, lower cost per click, all that stuff. So
yeah,
acquisition costs. Let's see what else is coming in. There's some small ticket. DOBES. I'm not clear on how to pronounce your name. Sorry, I don't want to butcher it. So, what about small ticket versus big ticket items? Any price sweet spots? So I can tell you that from what Anton recommends, and I recommend as well, is products that are $200 or more that don't require a lot of customer service, not brand name products that people would normally get brand names for. Would probably be is the sweet spot. So that's some criteria. So let's see what else we have. How much should you advertise money? So they're asking about TASHIMA. How much you should advertise money. They're basically asking about like ad budget per month. I would say as much as you can spend or as much as you can afford. What do you have to add to that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, it's just all about return on investment. This kind of comes back to that point I made earlier. If you can spend $1,000 to make $1,100, then do it. Any amount of advertising that you can afford, to your points, that produces a return on investment, a positive return on investment, is worth making. So it's just a function in the early stages of what you can afford. And so I would say, the important thing is have a clear understanding of what you can afford going into it in the very beginning. And I would look at that from a 1 to 3 month standpoint, maybe just say 1 month initially. So if you think, okay, I can afford to lose $500 this month, set that as your budget, right? And then from there, you're essentially in testing mode. You're going to see how much money you make, and now you have income coming in, right? And you kind of can consider that $500 hopefully just as dead money at that point. And based on the money that the sales that you're earning and the profit that you're making off of the sales from that $500, you can just start to grow and scale into the next month. So to me, it's just about understanding, and it's important not to get caught up in sales. What really matters in this business is profit, and it's hard to keep track of that sometimes because there's so many places where money gets spent, and it's hard to trace everything back to each sale. But as long as you understand how much profit you're making from that $500 and how much profit you think you'll make from expanding, then keep growing. I don't know if that's the best answer. I know that's probably a little bit nebulous, but the point is, if you spend $10,000 and there's a positive ROI on spending $10,000 over spending $9,000, then spend $10,000. If spending $500 is profitable and spending $1,000 is not, then don't. But in my experience, your budget is probably going to be in proportion to your sales and to your profit, right? So it's just about the initial investment, that first month before you have any income being generated by the site. How much are you willing to essentially lose or just drop into the company? It's sort of like an investment, so to speak. Because you have to pay that up front before the sales start coming in. But in most cases, there's an unlimited amount of scale that you can grow to in your advertising budgets. I feel like that wasn't the best way to answer, but it's a tough one.
No, it's good. And I think if you're not only getting focused on getting a return on investment, but you're also getting data that's going to help you convert to more sales later. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
because it gets you closer to what's working and lower your ad spend eventually. So that's something else. Let's see. ASAD Cool is saying, hey. Hey.
You're getting challenged with these names.
Yeah. A verb. Any specific tips or on targeting or retargeting that you can give? Just quick tips, because we're just gonna go do like maybe a rapid fire because we're probably gonna be wrapping this up soon. So I want to make best use of your time, Brian.
And I may or may not have a tendency to ramble on these things. So
hey, no, it's okay. It's okay. So any quick advertising tips on targeting, retargeting?
Sure. So if you're just talking about paid search type stuff, don't overthink it. You're probably going to start just geographically, and for most people, it's probably going to be the continental United States. I would say make sure that if you're doing your own campaigns, make sure that if you're targeting the United States, that you exclude Alaska and Hawaii, because when you're doing those campaigns, those are part of your campaign by default, and chances are your supplier isn't going to have the same shipping terms to those two places. It's going to cost you a bunch of money, and you probably lose. So make sure you exclude those, and then it's just more a function of your target audience. Try to do the best you can to really understand who your target customer is. Sort of create a mental checklist of where they might be, what they might like, what they might do, and you can slowly base your search targeting on that. And so maybe you might target specific. Maybe you start targeting or at least emphasizing big cities if you have a niche that fits that. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe you're something that's a little bit more rural or agricultural. Who knows? But I wouldn't think too much about it there. When you start getting into social campaigns, I think it becomes imminently, way more important, right? To really understand who your customer is. For retargeting, I'd say the obvious one is you're going to target anybody who's visited a site. I personally think it's important to put a time constraint on that. So if you're going to retarget somebody that came to your site for 3 seconds then bounced, you're wasting your money if you're trying to pay for their click or if they click through again. So I would make it 10, 20 seconds as part of that audience. Obviously retarget anybody who's been to the cart and moved through the cart in any way. And then if you want to get really creative, eventually start retargeting on a product by product basis. If you have good targeted ads that you can use. For example, we're starting to get into videos, so we're just now setting up retargeting campaigns specifically for certain products that people have visited. So now they'll get hit with that video in their Facebook newsfeed, for example.
Good. Okay, so let's see. I think we answered a bulk of the questions. If you have any other questions, please, if we can't get to them, please post them below. Whether you're watching live or the replay or what have you, please post whatever questions you can get. You have, and either Brian or myself or someone hopefully will go in there and answer your questions. The last question I had before wrapping it up: what advice would you give people watching today that or might be still on the fence looking at dropship lifestyle opportunity?
I would say get off the fence. I mean, I hate to sound like an advertisement for dropship lifestyle. Well, actually, I don't hate that at all. But I don't mean to sound disingenuous if it comes across that way. Get off the fence. I mean, I have some younger friends that I sort of mentor in various capacities, and it's something I've tried to introduce to them. I've got one of them currently working with me, helping me build up some of my stores with I'm putting in new products and things of that nature, just to give them a taste of it. And if I imagine I'm talking to them, it's like, get off your butt and do this, especially when you're 20, 22, 25, 27 years old. Do this before you're married. Do this before you have a house payment and a car payment, because there's almost no risk. Just dive in, try it. And you don't need to make a lot of money to be successful. You're going to learn so much. Even if you don't stick with it long term, the skills you're going to gain from that are going to, some people might not like this, but they're going to exceed anything you're going to learn in 4 years at a university, right? you're going to get so much practical experience that you can apply either by going back to the job market, or expanding your store, or creating your next store, whatever the case may be. Dive in. There's no reason in today's day and age why any person needs to believe that the only way to make a living is working for somebody else. It's just not the case. And you don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to be a savant to run a business. This is a really simple program. That's what's so great about it. So do it, get in, try it. If it doesn't work, you get back out again. You don't really lose much. But I can't emphasize enough the importance of just getting off the fence, doing it, and just following the process. Just let the process play out. Let it do what it's meant to do. If you follow every step, you kind of can't help but do all right.
Awesome. Well, hey, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. And just everybody watching, Brian is not a paid actor. He didn't know I was going to ask this, so that was good. That was good. I liked it. So kudos to you. That was good. But yeah, I think that's a great point to wrap up. Again, if you have any questions, you watching the replay of this, wherever we're posting, post your question below, and we'll get to as many as we can. Thanks for watching, everybody that stuck around. We had over 40 viewers on average, so, and nobody knew that we were going to go live when we did, so we just kind of went with it. So I appreciate you sticking around, though, everyone. Brian, thanks so much, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Adam. Really appreciate it, and thanks everybody for following along.
Bye.